A feral child is a child who has been isolated or neglected from human contact from a very young age and has little to no experience in human contact, behavior, or language. The first case is that of Jeannie, also known as Susan Wiley. Her parents were named Clark Wiley and Dorothy Irene Wiley. Her rehabilitation team included psychologist David Rigler, graduate student Susan Curtis, and psychologist James Kent. This case occurred in Los Angeles, California, on Golden West Avenue in Temple City. Jeannie's story came to light on November 4th, 1970. In 1974, NIMH withdrew funding. In 1975, Jeannie was returned to her birth mother. Her birth mother was unable to take care of Jeannie, so she was moved into foster homes and suffered more abuse and neglect.
I already knew that the child was 13 and a half years old. And I took one look at her, and she wasn't much bigger than my daughter Beverly, who had just turned 7 about 3 months earlier. And I really had a hard time conceiving of the idea that the child was the age that she was. The child obviously had been severely mistreated. She was still in diapers, couldn't walk. She had no verbal skills at all at that point.
Jeannie became feral because her father strapped her in a handmade straitjacket and tied her to a potty in a silent room. He hated noise and didn't want children. He had forbidden her to cry or make any noise. He growled at her and had beaten her. The outcome of Jeannie's case was that she ended up relapsing back into that feral state after the foster homes. The second case is John Cebunya, also known as the Monkey Boy. John's parents' names are unknown, but he was interviewed by anthropologist Mary Ann O'Hatter. This case took place during the 1980s, when Uganda was in the middle of a civil war and John was born in the midst of the conflict.
Looked funny, very funny. The boy looks like a monkey. His face was covered with hair. Oh, his body is as like a hair. My wife was frightened.
What did she think it was?
They thought it is like a monster.
John was found by Millie in 1991. John became feral because his father murdered his mother in front of him, and he fled into the jungle seeking safety. The outcome of this case is more positive than Jeannie's. He was rescued and now can speak and sing. There are many differences, but few similarities between the two cases. Starting with John's differences, he was raised by monkeys, he ran away at the age of 3, he was rescued at the age of 4 or 5. He crawled on all fours, he was found with 4-foot-long tapeworms, he learned his language, he learned to sing, and he joined a choir and found comfort in it. The differences with Jeannie, where she was strapped to a chair, neglected at the age of 20 months. She shuffled with the sort of a bunny hop. She was rescued at 13. She urinated and defecated when stressed. She was put in foster homes, which caused her progress to regress. And on her 27th birthday, she was described as miserable. The major difference between the two is that John has recovered fully, where Jeannie is still in that state. The similarities between the two are that they both had abusive fathers. Both of their fathers later killed themselves, and they both didn't know how to cry. This shows the importance because it gives psychologists a way to see the damaging effects of not learning to be socialized during the critical period. Lucky for John, the critical period lasts until someone is 12, but for Jeannie, she skipped right through it. It is important to learn cultural norms during the critical period in order to know how to behave. Without language, you can't understand behavior and therefore become feral. There are 4 stages of cognitive development. The first stage is sensory motor stage, which is age birth to 2. The achievement is object permanence. Things exist even if you cannot see them at the moment. The second stage is pre-operational stage, which is age 2 to 7. The achievement is decentering, able to see from the perspectives of others. Third stage is concrete operational stage, which is age 7 to 11. The achievement is conservation, able to conserve the properties of objects in different contexts. The fourth and final stage is formal operational stage, which is 11 onward. The achievement is abstract thinking. Problem solving is a mental process. This theory explains why John was able to learn language and Jeannie was not. When John ran away, he was 3 years old, which means he's already passed the first stage of cognitive development. This means he's already had a head start in completing the next stage. John was only missing for 8 months to a year, which means he was 4 or 5 when he was rescued. He still had 2 to 3 years to learn pre-operational stage. In John's case, this was just a minor setback into learning socialization again. Unfortunately for Jeannie, this was not the case. She was neglected at the age of 20 months, which unfortunately means she didn't pass the first stage. Jeannie wasn't given another opportunity to learn these stages until she was 13. Anthropologists realized it was far too old to try and teach her all 4 stages. Very clear from the beginning that they knew she wasn't going to be quote-unquote normal. Finally, that is all I have for these cases on Jeannie Wiley and John Sabunya.